Alright, my topic is autism and its effects, and my name is Aiden Miller. What is autism? According to Tom Harrington of Gallaudet University, autism is a form of discrimination aimed at persons who are deaf, and the actions of the deaf person do not assist in communication with others. Autism is a form of discrimination that can take several different forms, and there are many ways to both combat it and bring awareness to it. The term autism. According to Tom Harrington at Gallaudet University, the term autism was first coined in 1975 by deaf scholar Tom Humphreys in his unpublished independent essay. Humphreys originally defined autism as the notion that one is superior based on one's ability to hear or behave in the manner of one who hears. Awareness for autism did not find its way into society until Harlan Lane, American psychologist at Northeastern University in Boston, used the term in his own book, Mask of Benevolence. Harlan Lane compared autism to the concept of institutional racism. H. Durkin Bauman, a professor of the arts and humanities at Gallaudet University, in his book Audism, Exploring the Metaphysics of Oppression, described institutional autism as a structural system of exploitative advantage that focuses on and perpetuates on the subordination of deaf communities of origin, language, and culture. This idea was furthered by Jacques Derrida, a French philosopher, and said the supremacy of speech and repression of non-phonetic forms of communication, meaning that language is a distinguishing factor that society has labeled as human. Society has failed to recognize deaf individuals as human because they do not use the standard form of communication. Origins of autism. While much is not known about how ancient civilizations treated deaf individuals, there is some information that leads scholars to believe that there was resistance against them. In Aristotle's Poetics, he claimed that those who are labeled as disabled should be put to death for the betterment of society. During the Renaissance, when efforts were brought to educate deaf people, complications arose. Many considered this alternative teaching method to be witchcraft, according to Harry G. Lang of Oxford University in his book Perspectives on the History of Deaf Education. Forms of autism. According to VAWNet, an online network focused on violence against women and other forms of gender-based violence, there are several forms of autism, whether they may be small or very significant. These include asking a deaf person to read your lips, assuming that those with better speech are superior, and jumping into a deaf person's communication. Autism in the legal system. Deaf individuals are not shown equality in the legal system. According to Katrina R. Miller at the University of Arkansas Rehabilitation Research and Training Center for Persons Who Are Deaf or Hard of Hearing, in her book Linguistic Diversity in a Deaf Person Population, Implications for Due Process, among deaf individuals incarcerated in Texas in 2004, 20% were judged linguistically incompetent, unable to either understand the charges that they faced or meaningfully participated in the creation of their defense. Another 30% were adjunctively incompetent, unable to understand the legal proceedings without targeted instructional intervention. Katrina R. Miller also states that these statuses were the result of either lack of fluency in any language or functional literacy, respectively. As a result, it is unlikely that these deaf inmates had received their constitutional rights in the due process of law. However, all deaf inmates that were studied had been convicted and incarcerated with possible violations of their constitutional rights. Deaf individuals who were either ASL dominant bilinguals equally were both likely to fall into either category and therefore the most likely to have received due process, Katrina later notes. How the deaf community feels about autism. As Harlan Lane notes in his book, Do Deaf People Have a Disability? Activists in the deaf community claim that autists harm deaf culture by considering deafness a disability rather than as a cultural difference. Some individuals in the deaf community would rather be viewed as having a physical impairment, such as being blind or having to use a wheelchair. Being disabled assumes that a person cannot do anything at all, and it is a term that can harm the mental state of a person with an impairment. My final thoughts are, it goes without saying that the deaf community has seen many different forms of autism throughout history. It is up to us as a society to recognize that they have been marginalized and discriminated against like many other minorities, such as the African Americans, American Indians and Alaskan Natives, Asians, and Pacific Islanders and Hispanics. Not one person is better than the other, and it is our mission with this one life that we have to be a selfless person to others, especially those in the deaf community. Just because an individual is deaf doesn't make them less human, it adds uniqueness to our species. And these are my references. Thank you very much.